We live in the digital and technological age. There's no getting away from it. Applying it to every facet of life is reality, and construction is no different. Welcome to the Digital Build Podcast, discussing the technologies, workflows, and practical applications that have proven to assist today's construction projects. Listen as we connect you to the wide variety of stakeholders in our construction delivery teams and learn from their stories, adoption, successes, and future developments. Now, please welcome your host, Matt Fern, as he introduces you to this episode's champion.
Oh, that's fantastic. Hi all, my name is Matt Fern and welcome to my podcast, The Digital Build. So this is my very first episode, so it will be quite an interesting journey for myself as I get used to this kind of medium. Now, first of all, I might start with a little bit about me, where my journey has been in the construction industry. I started with a mechanical contractor back in 2007. From there, I moved to a national multidisciplinary engineering consultancy, which I did just over 11 years with. And then from there, I've moved on to Stowe Australia as their digital engineering manager since about April in 2019. Which has been a fantastic journey, and actually, to be fair, I've enjoyed all of my time in the construction so far. It's been a good challenge, that's to say, and I guess one of the biggest things I've been able to see in my time with the construction industry has been that change between AutoCAD to Revit to digital engineering to BIM. Well, to be fair, mainstream. I'm aware that different countries around the world, different facets have potentially touched on things that we call BIM in much earlier, but it has been really since the adoption or the widespread adoption of programs like Autodesk Revit that have really pushed that digital information to the forefront, and we've been able to capitalize that and use it to our advantage. Now, one thing I noticed, especially last year, which would have been 2020, a great time of COVID, is the lack of face-to-face contacts with things like conferences and meetings and catch-ups and things like that, where we could talk about industry developments face-to-face, so everything was done online, everything was well rehearsed, and everything compared to previous years, everything had a strong marketing sense, feel to it, strong rehearsed sense, and I really struggled to appreciate what these people were trying to tell me, potentially sell me, because I couldn't quite trust what they were saying. That's not to say it wasn't trustworthy. It's just one of the things I've liked about, especially attending things like conferences and industry events, is not so much to go and see the particular speakers or vendors, but I could then talk to my colleagues and actually ask them. I say, what is this thing? Is it any good? What have you liked it? And they might have just turned around and said, no, it's not worth it, or I have tried it, or yeah, it's worth giving it a go, and actually get more of an honest opinion about. And that's definitely what I like when you have that interaction. So one of the things I want to do on this podcast is actually reach out to my industry networks and get some guest speakers on and talk about open up a wide variety of our shareholders and stakeholders, and get their opinions on whatever it is. I will actually be asking my guests the questions that, I want answered. And I figure if I want the answers, then there's quite possibly others too that might want to see the answers. And not to mention, it is easier for people to, in a way, not present, but have a conversation with someone. I know personally, if I'm sat down with someone and I want to be asked questions as opposed to doing a formal presentation, it is much easier get me talking about work and, yeah, all right, let's talk shop for the next hour. No problem. But before I get into all the little positives or improvements as I would like to see in that kind of thing, I just want to give it a higher picture about where I see, I call our digital engineering, our BIM, all these classy buzzwords, where that is. And quite interesting, for a presentation I did not too long ago, actually I did some research and found on the website, actually on the Forbes website, an interesting article by a bloke named Jason Bloomberg. And I'm not going to read out the whole article, but one thing he did say, which I really liked, was in the final analysis, therefore, we digitize information, we digitalize processes and roles that make up the operations of a business, and we digitally transform the business and its strategy. Each one is necessary, but not sufficient for the next. And most importantly, digitization and digitalization are essentially about technology, but digital transformation is not. Digital transformation is about the customer. And that's quite interesting, because that's very much where my role at the moment with Stowe is, with as the digital engineering manager, and what that entails it's quite a wide remit, but how to tackle those things and how to have conversations with an industry in general that is very set in its ways, with a lot of these companies doing, or Stowe Australia has done over 110 years themselves, and a lot of successful construction companies have had the same tenure. So when you're talking about having a culture, a traditions, methods, workflow methods that have gone for 100 plus years, it's hard to then make changes that have happened in the last 10. Because when you compare that to the life cycle of the company, it's a very short period of time. So encouraging change is quite interesting. And these sort of conversations, we talk digital, have really only come about, into mainstream in about the last 8 to 10 years, something like that. And even now, we can't agree on anything. What I found on the Forbes website is going to be completely different to what someone else will read. But what we say, we want to digitize information, taking that back to more what I do, we could say that that's from, taking stuff from the drawing boards into CAD software. Now, that's easy enough, and that makes sense. Digitalizing processes, we could say, that's taking some of that information and getting quantities, getting lengths out of it, whatever it might be, actually using the data in the software to produce something. But when we talk about a digital transformation, that is an interesting one. And as I said, that the Forbes article said that it's not about the technology. Digital transformation is about the customer. Now, I'll be honest, I don't quite get that part of it, about where he's coming about the customer. But what I do like is McKinsey's spin on that, when it goes to unlocking the successes in a digital transformation, is their keys to successes is things like having the right digital savvy leaders in place. All right, fair enough. Building capabilities for the workforce of the future. All right. Yep. Empowering people to work in new ways. Now, that's a good one. I do like that. Giving day-to-day tools a digital upgrade. Now, I think that's a little bit similar to the first one, but I'll give them that heading. And communicating frequently via traditional and digital methods. It's not bad. Of course, then finally, looking ahead. That's what they categorise the key successes to a digital transformation is. And I think I like those headings, and I like to work towards those ones. So if you want a digital transformation, it's getting those digital tools, those information, that data we have to do those things for us. So to build the capabilities of the workforce in the future. The construction industry is not going to stay the same as much as some people want it to. It's not going to. I think there's some great examples of that out in the world at the moment, or have been. And if we think about it, and I did get the idea from a presentation I saw a couple of years ago. If we look at things like, Blockbuster Video versus Netflix, if we look at the CD, or if I want to keep going back, the tape deck, and yes, if we want to keep going back again, Betamax or something like that. Anyway, versus Spotify. Or if we look at things like the film for a camera versus our phones. Now, what those things all have in common is that the end product is still the same, essentially. Blockbuster Video and Netflix. They're still giving us films to watch for entertainment. CD versus Spotify. Well, they're still providing music for us to listen to. Film, digital camera. Again, photos. So we can say that the product's the same, but the delivery method has changed. And I think that is how we could summarise these digital changes we're making in the construction industry. That the product is the same. We're still building things. Buildings are still going up. But how we're going about and the processes we do that are changing. And I think obviously I don't know the whole story, but maybe if Blockbuster Video was a little bit more forward thinking, maybe they wouldn't have just disappeared into the wayside. Maybe they could have been the next Netflix. Who knows? So, positives. What is some of the positives that have happened around BIM, digital engineering? And I've witnessed these. That, I think, is key. Every one of the positives that I've written down on my little list here, I've personally witnessed these things happening. And I like that. I'll be honest, when I was working as a consultant, I spoke often about these things, or we were using these items as as the sales pitch, as this is why we do BIM, to hand it down the line, and these are the benefits that you'll get out of it. Well, that far up the supply chain, I wasn't personally witnessing them. So I'm a bit of a seer to be a believer. And as I said, these positives that I've got are things that I've witnessed, participated in, pushed myself. So less site delays, well thought out design, positive, very much so. There are less site delays. Now, what I would like is a bit more hard data on that. And maybe that's something I can talk to someone about. But there is considerable less delays. My challenge with that is I'm trying to prove something that doesn't exist. So maybe someone's got some good ideas about how we can go about that. But from working on projects which don't necessarily go down the full path, or witnessing a team of, say, 10, 20 blokes on site stop because they're trying to resolve something, there has been considerably less when using a full BIM model. And a well thought out design, you might not have missed the power for that particular item. All of the relationships between all the services have been generally more thought out, I think. I think that I've witnessed. That's definitely true. When the parties are involved, when all parties are involved at the team and those discussions are happening, those relationships are being established. Everyone is being picked up. The power for the hydraulics, the mechanical has enough space. The certain structural items are being avoided. Things like that. They're all being thought of during this design process, and they don't get seen during construction. Those resolutions, they're just taken for granted. But when you can see that, definitely a positive. A considerate design. considerate design, I think, is again definitely a positive. When we can design these these virtual constructs and walk our clients through, which actually takes me to my next point anyway. We can have designs that the end client is happy with. They don't have to wait till the end. Now, there's not a lot of clients who are very familiar with looking at a set of plans, a 2D set of plans. To a lot of people, they don't make any sense at all. To people working in the construction industry, we can very much become jaded to that. So, again, when we say considerate design, I say informed clients, visualizations. Not just that, but it's the visual aids that provide the client, oh, yeah, I like that. Or, no, I want my lunchroom a bit bigger. Or, no, I need this bench to be wider. I need more space. They can visualize it and see it. They might change their mind. Oh, actually, I don't like that. I would like to use downlights as opposed to troffers. I don't know. They can see all these things and actually make their opinions known then, when it would cost a lot less money. We've got another positive, as in confidence of offsite manufacturing. Again, being able to use it with that confidence in mind, so that we can prove the design works. And the way that works is when we have all parties involved. It's not good. It's not great if it's just the architect going all out and someone's trying to come on. I mean, what confidence have you got that the rest of the design party is going to play ball? But when everybody does come together and you have that confidence in the model, you have that confidence in the design, offsite manufacturing definitely becomes much less of a risk, which is fantastic. A smaller example of that is confidence in cast-in solutions, which can save essentially workplace health and safety, which was pointed out to me by one of our project managers actually, as opposed to drilling from the underside and potentially and limiting the reduced of silica dust. So doing a cast-in solution is actually a much better way. But again, you want that confidence in the model. And if it's there because the mechanical guys have worked with you, for example, hydraulics, fire, everyone has worked and together, and we've got confidence that where our elements are modelled in the virtual construct, that's where they're going in reality. That's fantastic when you've got that and being able to do it. So that's definitely a positive. These are things I've witnessed. Now, there are a lot of other positives in, I suppose, I'm going to put it to the marketing spiel. There's lots of potential BIM users that have been out there. I just personally haven't witnessed them. That's not to say they're not happening, but this is where reality meets the sales pitch, I think. And that's what I'm hoping we can come to. I would like to talk about, the positives in the industry. I think there are a lot. But if I listen to maybe some of the comments, especially from our previous conferences, for example, and listening to some of the people, some of the speakers, they're very negative about how much we've improved, how far we've come, which I don't think they might have a point, but I think it's better to concentrate on the positives, keep those things in mind, and keep pushing forward. That's what I choose to do anyway. So, what are some of the improvements I think we definitely need to focus on? Well, the engaged construction and delivery team is definitely one. As I said, we can have confidence in offsite manufacturing, confidence for cast-in solutions, less site delays if the construction teams, delivery teams are all engaged. I've worked on projects with both sides where we have had teams, everyone's come in together, and I've worked on projects where only one or two have, which kind of make it a little bit redundant for the rest. So that is certainly something we need to keep going on, which would be improving on. Sorry, is the right word to say. One topic that I really want to touch on, I'm looking forward to finding a speaker who will have this discussion with me, is the model life cycle. the consultants to the contractors. I know I've worked on both sides, and I understand that, but I'd still like to have that conversation. I'm actually working on a project right now where we have taken a consultant's model. I know it's produced as a model, or at least produced in the authoring software. That's a better way to say it. It's natively produced in Revit. It's been exported out as a DWG file, and then I want to use Revit as my authoring tool, so I'm then re-importing it back in and going from there. It's just a little bit crazy when you actually see some of these steps, and a lot of that is to do. I've seen the reasons. Well, I've heard the reasons, but I'm still can't quite get my head around why it's still there. I know the argument is that contractually I'm not obliged to hand over my model. Okay, what's the point of doing one? I'm not too sure if we're not going to hand over that information. If we're not going to assist the next team down, what's the point? Are our clients actually aware this is happening? I'm not talking about potentially the architects or the builders, but I'm talking about the end users. Sorry, who would eventually be paying for this? Are they aware that this is happening? I don't know. Consistency of information. This is something we definitely need to improve on. And it's something that's coming out now, actually, and I'm looking forward to doing a bit of research into ISO 19650 and their information protocol, specifically the level of information need. That's going to be... That looks interesting. But the one catch with these is that it is essential that they're clearly reflected in the contractual documents. And that's the trick. Because some of these things being able... If you don't reflect it in the contractual documents, different people responding to tenders might spin this different ways. The goalposts need to be the same for everybody. If they are, we might be able to tender much more efficiently. And everyone might be responding to the same thing. So that consistency of information is great. The infamous LOD argument, level of development or level of design, is a great one. When you ask people, or some people aren't aware that LOD classification system is an element-based system, doesn't represent an overall model. Now, that's quite interesting when we start to say, I'm going to deliver this model as LOD 500. But if you understand the system, that means everything you're asking to be modelled is going to be, to meet those to meet the standard of the LOD 500, exact place, etc. And that's fine, except when you start to dig into it, does that mean you're going to put a mag lock on a door? You're going to model that exactly, and you're going to put it into the right position. I'm talking about the model element, not the information. Which benefit does that show? Who does that benefit? And the answer is, well, nobody. Everyone is happy with a 2D symbol that represents it, and the information held somewhere else. The information can still be in the model, but it doesn't necessarily need to be a modeled element. And that's some of that consistency of information, which makes it, again, challenging for someone who's responding to tenders about, how do we respond? If I understand more than the next person, how does that reflect the tender that I'm putting in? It'd be interesting. Anyway, we'll see. We'll touch on that. It's obviously one that's reflected quite well in the industry. So it'll be interesting getting a different couple of points on that, seeing where different people stand. We'll see some of my consultant network and contractors as well. We'll see how that comes out. So where's more further improvements? Government mandates. That'd be great. Now in Australia, we've got a few that, well, one in particular really that's coming along nicely. It's the government of New South Wales. but and if the rest when the rest follow, it'll be fantastic, and hopefully then that'll start to filter down to the private sector. But what's the interesting thing is, I come back to what I've been presented at, what I've listened to. I haven't personally witnessed the results over in the UK. I've heard about the UK and the successes in the UK, but I wonder how much of that is based into reality, and is the grass greener on the other side? I'm not too sure. I know we base a lot of our standards, we take our standards from the UK and the US and put them together and make a US an AU standard. But yeah, I mean, I'm interested to see. I don't have any contacts over there in the UK yet that I know of. But it'll be interesting to see if I can reach out and actually speak to someone over there, and they can give me some real practical examples, as opposed to, so I can cut through some of the marketing. I'd really like to understand, are they that far advanced as we're led to believe? I don't know. What changed them? What works? Quite interesting. There's some other things that I'd like to touch on too. Some things that I have heard, a bit more of the sales pitch that I'd like to see. I'd like to see that model nirvana, where one model is there to rule them all. I think that has possibilities, where we are working in the one model. I don't know how that would exactly work on a commercial scale, but I think it has potential, and I think it would expose a lot of disciplines to the challenges that other disciplines have because of the way they model or the way they interact with each other. If everyone was working in one exact model, we would see our immediate impacts on each other. Even with our, the cloud-based systems, etc., it's not 100% live at any time, and even the linked models don't exactly work correctly to notify when there's an actual problem. So working inside that one model would be quite interesting. It'd be great. I'd like walls to actually cut penetrations around themselves because you put it instead of having to run tools and add extra add-ons. That'd be fantastic. Anyway, we'll see. The other ones, we further information is sustainability analysis, energy modelling, things like that. Though they're sold to us now as potential BIM uses, but whether we can actually see that or not, whether we can put analysis on real modelled elements that have gone in, right down to the contractor level, as not a consultant's design model, but actually sustainability analysis on the end product. That would be great. An energy modelling system that actually works of installed elements or proposed elements, but does match those that are going to be procured to go to that level, as opposed to just the design analysis. That'd be interesting things to chase up on. So look, there's plenty of topics that'll be touching on. Lots of interesting things. The conversations with my guests will most likely lead me in other directions that I don't intend. But it's going to be an interesting journey, and I'm very much looking forward to speaking with those people and letting them open up in a way that might be a bit more comfortable, than doing a presentation or a one-on-one person talking to a camera. This is very, very strange, I can tell you. Anyway, so in the meantime, as I said, I will be looking for speakers as well. I'm checking through my network, but if you want to reach out and actually become a speaker on my podcast, then check out my website at www.thedigitalbuild.com, and from there you can find all the details about how to contact me, etc. So, episode 1 done, sort of. It's a bit rough, I know, but we'll get there. I'm looking forward to all of the discussions and the improvements that are coming. Excellent. Thank you very much, guys. Cheers.
You've been listening to the Digital Build Podcast. We talk about the technologies, workflows, and practical applications that have proven to assist today's construction projects without the conventions, meetings, online forums. We cut right to the chase. We hope you've gotten some useful and practical information from the show. And we'll be back soon. But in the meantime, hit the website at www.thedigitalbuild.com. Till next time, this is the Digital Build Podcast and Matt Fern signing off.